Is your soundboard set, or you don't have that soundboard no more, right?
I
And
got
that way,
yeah. Try to be fancy, but they think it just didn't.
all good, all good. I understand. Well, there's a lot to go over with this one. Basically, we'll go over the 53-man roster. What you thought, also basically what you thought of the preseason games. Um, there's some people that were cut that wasn't expected to be cut. Some people kept that they didn't expect to be kept. A lot of people wanted Bean over Ellinger because they already know what they got with Ellinger and they like what they saw with Bean. And I'm actually like what I saw from Ellinger, but whatever. And like Evan Hall and who was the other guy? Blah 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 blah. The safety, can't remember the safety's name. He's gone and got signed somewhere else. Safety linebacker that we brought on last year. I can't remember who he was. What was his name? Crap. But we only have 3 safeties. 4. No, we got 4. Julian Blackman. Okay. Well, what they don't understand is Trevor Denbo is a special teams guy. I mean, he's hardcore special teams. And then, of course, they kept Rodney Thomas and Nick Cross. So I understand where that is. It's probably because of how deep they are across the board. They kept a kicker on the practice squad, which is kind of what?
Yeah.
Maybe they just, I don't know. I don't get that part at all, why you would keep a kicker on the practice squad unless you're not feeling good with the kicker that you have, that you just paid all that money to, right? And Matt Gay. But
the whole practice squad situation is.
yeah, I mean, we got 3 corners on there. Evan Hall, I knew they'd slide Evan Hall onto the practice squad. That was one of the, why'd we get rid of Evan Hall? But, I mean, they're only keeping, 3 running backs? So.
Yeah, they only have 3 on the roster.
And I understand. I know that they want to keep Trey Sermon because of what he did last year. And then, Goodson. But heck, Goodson's 31.
I'm about to say, bro, he's old.
Yeah. Yeah. And Hall is basically Goodson. They basically, they're both kind of shifty, catch the football, that kind of stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, then there was the whole, the 5th, 6th, and 7th round pick were released. Now, granted, a couple of them made it back onto the practice squad, but
it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
I mean, it could say 2 things. One,
I'm biased on this.
Okay.
I don't know if you know, but I do. I'm director of player development for sports agency, right? Grand Central, right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Jalen Simpson is one of our clients, one of our guys we signed this year. So I'm a little upset about it because, Jalen played safety in college at Auburn, and so yeah, granted he's light, he's about 175. He's not gonna play safety. All right, well, he ain't stopping, big running back coming down, he comes downhill, he's getting ran through. I get that. Coverage wise, skill wise, I feel like, like he can play corner. And you guys drafted him under the pretense that you were going to switch in the corner, which is fine because Jalen can play corner. But you switch his position, you take a 5th round pick on him, switch his position, you don't give him a chance really with 3 months to develop into that role. You say there's potential for him, but then you cut him and he's a 5th round pick. Like, you mean to tell me that, when I look at,
well, Why don't we hold off on all of that for the show itself? Because I haven't even hit the intro yet. We're going because I'm a little upset over Micah Abraham too. So 'cause I sat down talked with him during training camp. Had interviews with him and stuff. So yeah, we'll get into all that in just a second. All right, that way we're not doubling over what we were talking about. So, are you set and ready?
Yeah, I'm ready to rock.
All right, don't forget, I got to do that bet online thing within 5 minutes. So here we go. I got a new
Come over.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, I'm Alyssa, an Indianapolis Colts cheerleader for the 2024 season, and this is Believe in Colts.
Welcome back to Believe in Colts, brought to you by Bet Online. I'm Lawrence Owen, and with me, as usual, for this season again, Donald Thomas. This is a pleasure. Man, a lot of my co-hosts, they're here a year and they're gone. You're here for a second year in a row. I'm excited. I'm ready to rock. I know how you kind of roll. So this should be a great season between us to sit here and talk about Indianapolis Colts football. What are your thoughts now that the preseason is over with and the regular season is just now getting ready to kick off?
Well, I mean, I'm excited to be back. I'm excited for football to start back up. It's always the best time of the year when you're in the final week before, getting geared up, ready to go, and everybody's in football mode. So I'm excited to see what happens this season with the Colts. I'm optimistic this season, to be honest with you. We'll see what happens. I mean, we're still relatively young in some areas, and so I think it's going to be some growing pains. But at the end of the day, I think that there are some veteran guys that should be able to step up and kind of guide the way.
Absolutely. I've been very optimistic the last couple years, but this year I'm not as optimistic. I mean, I am in certain areas, I'm not in others, right? There's some things about this roster that worries me a little bit and has me a little bit confused. And we're both going to discuss that in just a moment, right after I remind everybody that Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our 200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance to win weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game is over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and get in on the action. Bet Online. The game starts here. So before we started recording, we were talking about some of the guys that kind of either had a scratch in our heads or, let's be frank, pissed us off, right? That they were let go from the 53 man. And I mean, some of them didn't even make the practice squad. And we were talking just a minute ago about one of your guys, a guy who you have been working with represent, why don't you get in on that a little bit?
Yeah, so there's always this the end of the draft is never set in stone, right? And you can kind of you're not surprised when 6th and 7th round picks don't make a team, right? 6th and 7th round picks. I was a 6th round pick. I made the team. I was starting as a rookie. I beat the odds, right? So I was one of the outliers when it came to not being safe. And so I never experienced that, but I did see it from playing 8 years. 6th, 7th round pick is never set in stone. But when you see a 5th round pick get cut, it's kind of one of those, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm biased in this situation, right? Jalen Simpson's one of my guys that I help represent with the sports agency that I work with, and I was very excited for Jalen to come to Indianapolis this year. I thought it was going to be a great landing spot for him. I still think it is a great landing spot for him, to be honest with you. Jalen brings a lot of versatility. Like, he played, safety in college. He's rangy. He can play corner, but he played safety at Auburn. And so a lot of teams saw him as kind of a hybrid kind of guy where He can play safety, but he's a little bit light, in the rear end for safety. It's buck 75, and so he's got switched to corner. So when he got drafted, he was going to get switched to corner. It was just one of those things where we'll see how this thing goes. I know Jalen can play it, and I just don't feel like he got enough reps, to be honest with you, to justify what happened to him, to be honest with you. I mean, like the last preseason game, I went to 2 of the games this year, and the last one I was there, and I just saw him holding his helmet to the fourth quarter, and he got in. They didn't even throw his way. He just kind of ran across the field and, get in over on the tackle. And so I kind of saw the writing on the wall, but I was like, nah, he's a 5th round pick. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't do that to 5th rounders. And I went back once Jalen got released. I went back and I looked, and on average, there's 3 on average 5th round picks released every year on average. So that's not even 3 we can bet on every year, but on average, right? And so he's one of those 3 this year, and it's kind of a head scratcher where he's on the practice squad, and he's an injury away from being called up, so to speak. Hopefully, right? They don't go out and grab somebody off the street, but it's just one of those things where you see like the 5th and 6th, 7th round picks that the Colts took this year. It's almost like, well, we're just throwing darts on a board and see who we land on. In my opinion, what it looked like, because you can find quality guys in those later rounds, and you see a lot of guys that are stars that become stars in the league are those guys where they're 4th to 7th round picks, or even free agents that didn't get, they probably didn't play at a high level, or they just didn't get looked at as being a guy that can compete at that level, but he's a pro. Well, we'll see what happens. And so, it was just kind of a nail scratch, one of those, head scratchers where you saw what happened with Jalen this year. He had a lot of interest from a lot of teams, right? And so everything was a weight issue with him. Wait. And I'm telling Jalen, like, hey, man, you got to eat. You got to eat. You got to eat. I don't care what you do. You just got to keep eating, But he's like, it's hard to put on weight. But now, from talking to him now, it's just about being a pro, right? You guys got to go in there and eat, lift, watch film, one of those things. But, like, these young guys have to understand, like, it's a grind, man. It's a grind. When you get into those later rounds, you're not safe. And like, they may tell you you're doing a great job, but you got to look at the room. You got to look at what's going on around you, and you got to understand what numbers, and you got to kind of ask questions like, hey, how many guys are keeping this year? 6, 7? What are we doing? Then you got to see where you stack up. You got to look at your reps. So you got to make every rep count. Jalen had some balls thrown to him. He made some plays this year, but it just wasn't enough, I guess, to beat out some of the other guys. So, you see it with, those last 3 picks that they took. They didn't keep them. So it just goes to show, they did a hell of a job early in the draft this year with Latu. I can't take anything away from that guy. I mean, saw him firsthand up close and personal. He's a man. He's a man. He's ready to go. I thought he was smaller. Looking at him on film, I thought he was smaller than when I saw him. Like, whoa, okay, like, he's a big dude, man. Like, he can move. He can move.
Mm-hmm.
We can go into that later, but yeah, I was really surprised at the end of the draft how those draft picks for the Colts didn't stick on their active roster this year.
Yeah, I remember when it was drafted and we did our post-draft, and you were like, not exactly a fan of picking Latu at that point, and that was my guy. I was like, that's the guy I wanted the Colts to pick, because
you did.
Loved what I saw on film. And we'll get into that in a minute as well. But you was talking about Jalen, 5th round pick. Well, the next round pick, 6th round pick was Micah Abraham, and I had the opportunity to sit down and talk with him during training camp. Had an interview that I posted, and I thought he played very well. Outside of, I think, one play during the preseason, I thought he did well during training camp. He made a lot of plays the last preseason game, and I was kind of shocked that he was let go. Now, I understand that his athletics isn't the best, but he was always around the ball, right? And that is something. It's hard to teach instinct if you can't even do that, right? It's something that just comes natural. He knows how to get around the football, and that was something that we didn't have last year as much with Darius Shaquille Leonard being hurt and then being traded and all, or let go and all of that. we didn't have those guys that were around the ball to make plays and turnovers and things of that nature. And Micah was doing that during training camp, during preseason games, stuff like that. And yet he was let go. And that was a big head scratcher for me. And it made me wonder. You talked about, hey, you got to put on a little weight, or showing up early, showing you got to stand out, right? When you're a late round pick, you kind of got to have to stand out a little bit from the rest of the guys in the room around you in order for you to make that 53. And you don't want to stand out in a bad way. And I would assume that there are some things that are just, like they're not there as much as other people, or not putting in as much time as other people in their room, or something of that nature. Could be a red flag. Now I'm not in the, the facilities and stuff like that. So I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm just saying that it's one of those situations. We're not there. We don't know what the work habits were. We don't know how he was reacting with other people, these guys. Maybe it just wasn't a good fit at that point in time. It might look great on paper and on film, but you still got to fit with the team, right?
Yeah, I mean, to the outside looking in, what you don't see is all of that, right? You see, if you come in training camp, you see 2 hours out of a whole workday. You go to a game, you see 3 hours out of a whole workday, right? You don't see what goes on the 21 other hours of the day, from the staff meetings, the interactions, the weight room, the film study, the just everything else that plays a part into a guy making a 53, right? Like those are sometimes it goes past the field. And a lot of times it does go past the field, where a guy could be super talented. He can be around the football. He can make the right plays. But does he mesh well with making this football team? How does he fit into this room? If he's not going to be the starter, how is he going to hit? What is his role, right? Like how does he work? Do we fully trust him to make the plays? Maybe it's a learning curve, right? Some of these guys have learning curves that they're just not catching up the speed on, and they're struggling to make plays and react, because the problem is this, and what like a lot of people don't understand is, like, when you jump from the college level to the pro level, like there is that much room for error, and everything's happening precise. And when you have veteran guys on the field that have been around for a couple of years and they're used to that game speed and used to making those decisions real quick, as a rookie, when you're propelled into the situation, especially being a draft pick with some expectations, now I get it, right? There's a hierarchy of expectations. Your first round pick, you're ready to rock, right? Second round pick, same thing. You got a little bit of leeway. Third, fourth round picks are those guys where, hey, he can make decisions, but how fast can he make them? We'll give him some time to, catch up to speed. If he shows us he's a starter right away, great, right? Maybe he's not going to be in that starting role, but we know that he's going to be the guy next up. And you get in the later rounds and you're like, all right, this guy has potential. He's got all the intangibles, but can he play at this level? We will see here coming up in these next, weeks of training camp. And so then there's also well, is he taking notes? Is he on time? Is he how's his body language around the facility? All these things. And you have to understand, like I tell guys all the time, like when you're in the building, when you're interacting with anybody, I don't care if it is the intern kid from Montana State that is a trainer for the summer that's coming there for his internship program. Like, you conduct yourself as a pro, because guess what? Everybody reports back to somebody. Everybody is a mole in the building. And so if anything spreads of any type of negativity, it's like a cancer around the building, and people believe it and they soak it up and they start watching with laser focus to see, like, what's the deal with this guy? Like, can we really trust him? Is he going to be a good fit? So there's just so much that comes along with it. Everybody that you see that's a draft pick that's out there can play football. We're not disputing that. It's how well can they play when the pressure's on, and then how good of a pro are they going to be around the locker room, in the building, in the community, all those things. But, when it comes down to it, man, I was surprised at him getting released as well, just because, he was making some plays, but, they were this is one training camp where I felt like, because of the way the NFL has been structured in training camp, where everything's so fast and boom, 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 and the reps aren't what we used to get when we played. Practice was grueling 2-3 hour practices where they were we were doing a ton of team periods and guys are getting a ton of reps. And, like this is not that anymore. This is like, team blitz is quick. It's a quick 8 minutes and you're done. So the starters are going to get the majority of the reps. So when you get in, you better make the best out of your reps, your situation. And then with cutting down to 3 preseason games instead of 4, it's even more minute to where you can't mess up, or you have to take advantage of the opportunities that you have when you get them, because they're gold. So, man, it's tough, man. I hate to see guys not get opportunity or lose out on opportunity because it's just been cut down so much for them to make an impact in such a short amount of time.
Well, the good thing about Jalen Simpson is he still has an opportunity to flash with the team, since he was one of those guys that was selected to the practice squad. So that is at least something, right? You're always just because you're on the practice squad doesn't mean you're out of sight, out of mind. You're still on the field doing stuff, and you have that opportunity. There was something there that they liked about him. Talking about guys that were released and then added to the practice squad, there's a quarterback. There was a little bit of controversy between some Colts fans, between Jason Bean, who a lot of people thought he played very well. And then, of course, Sam Ellinger, who we know what he brings. The one thing that I can say about Jason Bean is we never saw him with the 1s or 2s. Okay. It was mostly 3s, 4s, and guys who were flipping burgers today. Okay. That's who we saw Jason Bean playing with. And we got to keep that in mind. Did he show some flashes? Did he show a little bit of excitement with his play while he was out there on the field? Absolutely. But, again, Sam Ellinger has been around this facility, around these players, around, the coaches and everything for a while now. He knows everything, and he brings, I think it was, I can't remember if it was the head coach or the GM that said, he brings stuff to the room, to the film room. He asks questions. He helps people. He does a lot of stuff, outside of just what he can bring to the field as well. And I think that has a lot to do, with that decision. Granted, Bean's on the practice squad. Like I said, same thing with Jalen Simpson. He has that opportunity to grow, become better, and then, show the coaches that, hey, give me a shot if it ever happens. And then, of course, if an injury happens, God forbid, right, then there's a good chance that you'll be brought up. They probably won't just go out, on the street. You're generally going to look at your practice squad first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the deal. Bean will never play a snap this year. Okay. But the thing is this, with the Colts in the state of the quarterback situation the past, 5 years now, right? You're going to go with trusted individuals that you can have a shot with if something were to hit the fan, right? So you got Anthony, obviously. You got Joe Flacco, obviously, right? Joe's old. Joe was my draft year, right? Joe's pushing 40 if he's not 40 already. I'll be 39 here in a couple weeks. So, we're old, we're grandpas out there, right? So what you're going to get out of Joe from a standpoint of him knowing the game plan and be able to manage a team. Will Joe, and I don't mean to jump off this because this is all kind of related to what I'm about to say. Can Joe do what he did last year in Cleveland? Come off the couch, from taking his boys to practice and, go and win games and try to get a team into the playoffs? I don't know. I'm not going to say no because it's possible. You see older quarterbacks do it all the time. But how much faith do you have in him if things were to, go awry very quick in the season, like how they did last year with Anthony? And now you're relying on a 40-year-old quarterback to, pick up the slack for 3/4 of the year, right? So Bean is not going to be in the mix just because of the situation where you got to keep Ellinger out there, on the active roster, ready to rock, ready to go. Because granted, I guarantee in practice, Ellinger and Flacco are taking the same amount of reps. If not, Ellinger is taking more than Flacco is. You know what I'm saying? So Bean's going to be taking all the scout team reps. We get that, right? But Ellinger's going to be taking those scout team reps too because he's got to get ready to go. So I knew that you weren't going to see a lot of them. I knew that you were going to see a lot of him during training camp because, quite frankly, he just wasn't in the game plan for them to get ready for a guy to come in there and play. We need to have these guys who we know are going to be on the active roster getting these reps because they're critical. There's not a lot of that go around. When you got 4 quarterbacks in training camp, you can't give everyone the equal amount of reps. It just doesn't work that way. So, like, he knew he was behind the 8 ball when he came to Indianapolis, period. This is great for him to be on the practice squad. It's definitely a big win for him. He just got to be ready to go. He's got to prepare like he's Anthony Richardson times 10, right? He's got to be in there watching the same amount of film he's watching. He's got to be doing this. He's got to be mimicking every rep in the background. He's got to listen to every play call, everything that happens. He needs to be front and center watching everything that's going on during practice, ready to go. And then, I don't know the Colts procedure now with the practice with P squad guys, but I think they're on the sideline during the games. He needs to be in the games. He needs to have the earpiece in, studying the game because, and quite frankly, guess what? That's only a quarter of the situation because it's completely different when you put that helmet on, you trot out there, and the lights are on. It's a whole different vantage point from there to make the right decisions now. But at least he's mentally prepared to be ready to go. So I wasn't surprised at that. Keeping all 4 is crazy. You don't see 4 quarterbacks on the roster. I've never seen it before. I know it happens, but it's very rare. So, like the practice squad being expanded gives being that opportunity to be on a practice squad where he probably would be home right now, just, working out at a facility at his high school or something like that. So, it's interesting to see. The state of the quarterback situation for me personally is still one that is a major concern in my opinion. You still got a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep,
absolutely. And I think our next show is we're gonna discuss some of we're going to discuss Anthony Richardson. I think we're going to discuss Latu. We're going to discuss some of the key position players that we have on our team on the next episode when we get together. We're going to decide when that happens once we end this here in just a moment. But we're already pushing about the end of the episode. But I just want to say one thing. We talked about, Jalen. And then, of course, and then we talked about Micah, 2 corners or corner and safety, either way you look at it, that were released. And then what burns, and I this has got to get under their skin. They went out of the building and picked up Womack, right? That was released to put down as a corner. And that, I think, and he's not proven, right? They now, granted, they said they liked his film, they liked what he wanted, they wanted him way back in the day, and he's 25, he's not an old guy, right? But it feels like it get under your crawl right there, that they went out of the building after dropping you off to 53 to sign another corner that was released from San Francisco, mind you. I mean, San Francisco's a good team. And then going that route. And that just kind of, it's like they know what they have with those 2 guys, and they went out and got someone outside the bit that hadn't been there, and they don't know them as well as they do the other 2 guys. That's confusing. It's almost as confusing as signing a place kicker on the practice squad as they did as well.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. The GMs all know each other. As much as it's a competition, it's also like we got to work together with some, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. It's going to be what it's going to be when we line up against each other. But, I don't know who knows who over in San Fran. I don't know if Ballard's really good, has great relationships over there. But, roster churn from the bottom and who's probably not going to make a team, and you keep an eye on them. And a guy that you liked in previous years, if you can get him, you'll try to get him. You know what I'm saying? And so it does from a player standpoint, it burns you up because you're like, yo, I've been here, I'm working, I know the scheme, I know the system. That dude can't just come in and you're gonna sign this guy over me, like, and I know I can play. Like, you're not giving me a shot to prove myself, or you don't think I'm good enough. You think this guy that got cut from this other team, now you bring him on, he's active roster, and like I'm just supposed to just internalize that and be like, but this is about the process of being a pro. You can't take it personal. You have to understand that this is business, right? And so I'm not in the front office. We're not in the front office, so we can't sit here and say, look, everybody's a GM in their own right, in their own mind, right? I'm a GM in my own mind. Like, I'm like, now I'll get rid of him tomorrow. I'll get this guy, but like, we need to upgrade this and do that and do that. But this is why these guys are in this position to make these decisions. You can't take it personal. You just hope it works out for the best. You hope that they know a little bit more than what we're saying, and we know what our water cooler speeches are with our buddies that fit, right? And so you can scratch your head at almost a lot of decisions made by all 32 teams, right? It's going to be that all year, and especially this time of the season. But here's the best part: the first quarter of the season, there's so much roster turnover. It's incredible. That's why I'll tell one of my other guys, like, we're talking, like, that's why teams do not take team pictures until October. This is the exact reason they're making these roster moves. That kid might be gone next week. He might not even make it to week 1 of the season. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's so much like roster turnover that you can't even look into it. Yes, you lose when you like a guy for the team and you lose him. Okay, yeah. But when you bring these guys in, like, he might not even be here. You know what I'm saying? Like, injuries happen. Like, they might, hopefully, if that guy's still available, they might bring him back on the roster. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's a big reunion party in the locker room when you hear so-and-so got brought back and he come in, hey, welcome back. You've seen a week or two. So, like, yes, I don't agree with every move. But then again, I'm not, getting paid to make those decisions. But there are a couple that I would have when you see a guy that, especially if the locker room likes him, and you know that he can play, and he didn't get a fair shake, get released, and you bring a guy in that's, from another team. But, hey, he's got veteran experience too, so that is the only kind of relieving part of knowing that, hey, man, he knows how to play cover 2. He knows how to, he knows zone cover. He knows all that, man. What are you gonna argue with? Hopefully it just works out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode. I think, like I said, we're gonna be doing this on a regular basis now. Now that the season's getting ready to start, I've had my personal life stuff that I've had to do over the off season. You've had your personal life stuff to do over the off season. I mean, we still have it, but it's at the point now where we're back. We're going to be on the regular, and can't wait to really get into talking football. Any final words before we get out of here?
No, I mean, Colts fans, strap up for a season. Let's not do any win predictions just yet. But just know that I think I'm a little bit higher on the Colts this season than I was last. I think that is a step in the right direction. Only because I just, I think that, at some point this ship has to right itself. And I think that if we're going to get on the right path, we just gotta trust and believe that, that guys are going to hold up and make good decisions, and everyone kind of gets it finally, that it all clicks for everybody. But yeah, man, I'm excited for this year to see what unfolds.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for us here at Believe in Colts. I'm Lawrence Owen. That's Donald Thomas. This was brought to you by Bet Online, and as usual, go Colts.
Go Colts.
Do you believe?